So you wanna know what really grinds my gears when it comes to animation? It's whenever I watch an episode and get a sense of a lack of effort from the team that made it. Everything from bad writing, bad animation, bad characters, bad everything. And while a lot of my past reviews have been mostly positive, today I want to take a trip back to the past, to my very first video review on YouTube. A review of the Season 10 episode of the Fairly OddParents, FairyCon. Now while I had made even more amateur style videos back in the day, that review is what I consider to be my first proper video essay, despite the appalling quality. So let's not waste any time, let's get into FairyCon. If you know anything about the final few seasons of the Fairly OddParents, you're probably also aware of the multitude of problems that reviewers, like myself, have had with said seasons. And this episode does nothing but highlight each and every single one of them, with more examples than I could count on my fingers and toes, easily making this one of my least favorite episodes. Right up there with Timmy's Secret Wish, another episode I reviewed back in the day. The first and probably most glaring problem being the humor.
Just me and a bowl of the most sugary cereal on earth. Nothing could possibly ruin this moment. Timmy! Ah!
Like, I don't even know where to begin with this. Like, do I really have to start off this early? Fine. For the unaware, Season 10 of this show gets a lot of flack for the use of subversion. Failed subversion at that. You see, The Fairly OddParents is a show that loves to use running gags, even in earlier seasons. Butch Hartman, the creator, loves them so much that they even creep into his other shows, namely Danny Phantom, Tough Puppy, and Bunsen is a Beast. The difference between the running gags in the old show and the running gags in this new painfully unfunny attempting to be like the original show is that the jokes come up in different situations, and the setups weren't so obvious that it ruined the surprise factor of the joke. Like, think about it. Timmy is not talking to himself for no reason. He is talking because he wants you, the viewer, to expect something to happen, just for the opposite of that thing to happen. But when you do it with absolutely no variation, no subtlety, and every 30 seconds, it becomes predictable. Add on to that this is pretty much the only joke that they use, it doesn't help their case either. Now, while the show was not the funniest in the first place, its jokes did what they had to do and left. Now, can we get on with the actual plot of the episode?
I just got my invitation to my very first FairyCon!
So the plot revolves around Chloe, a character who needs no introduction from me, getting an invitation to her first FairyCon. And let's talk about CosmoCon, an episode I covered a few weeks back at the time of recording. Also revolves around the convention aspect. The difference between its usage here and its usage there is that the convention in CosmoCon actually serves a purpose in the story. So, in that episode, Mr. Cocker comes over to Timmy's house to look for fairies, under the rouse of him meeting his parents. At the same time, Cosmo was selected to host the event, and decides to host it in Timmy's bathroom. Why that episode works is because the con is used as a way to raise the stakes of the episode. Here, it's just used to bring up a previous plot point to make the viewer think that the writers actually care about the show, when they obviously don't. You cannot tell me that after watching this episode that anyone actually cared about what they were doing. I can prove this with problem 2, the animation.
Hey Chloe, you excited about your first FairyCon? Wait!
I am so totally thrilled! It's like a dream come true!
Again, like, where do I even begin with this? How did that scene make it through production? Tell me how in any way, shape, form, or construct is this what I should expect from a show that was once so highly regarded? If you're going to say hi to Chloe, look at Chloe, don't look at the audience. This is just a basic principle of visual storytelling that I didn't have to tell them. And it's not like this wasn't an easy fix. Just have Wanda and Cosmo look at Chloe.
I'm glad you're excited. Me, not so much. I'm already getting shirtless selfies from my not-so-secret admirer, 1DC.
Yes, because that certainly proves the fact that you care about your characters, when half of the main cast of your show doesn't even appear in most episodes. Characters that you spent whole episodes introducing. Characters that were built up for a whole season and then got Thanos snapped out of existence. But forget about them. Let's bring back a character who serves no purpose to the story other than some quick gags, just so we can pretend that we care about the lore. Keep in mind, I am not even in the first 2 minutes of the episode. 2 minutes and I'm already losing my mind. Oh, but let's not forget about problem 3, the characters. Particularly in this episode, Cosmo, Mr. Turner, and Mr. Crocker. But we'll get to Mr. Crocker and Mr. Turner in a bit. Remember when Cosmo had depth?
Check out my headshot in the FairyCon brochure!
You're facing the wrong way, Cosmo.
Exactly! It's in keeping with the theme of my panel. Worst fairy godparent ever!
Remember when he used to be a well-meaning character who cared for his god kid and wife? His character essentially got demoted down to just focusing on the dumb aspect, making him unbearable to watch at times. There's a difference between being slow to the punch and having the same IQ as a vegetable. To just see Cosmo do everything with not the tiniest inkling of logic, and just doing dumb things because the episode needs him to, is so frustrating. And speaking of characters who are only used for one thing, enter Mr. Turner.
Hi, Timmy. Hi, Chloe. Hi, weird kids with wings.
If I could nominate one scene for the worst scene of a Fairly OddParents episode, it would be this one, without a shadow of a doubt, because this goes against every single convention of the show that I could probably talk about for a solid 10 minutes. If you're going to essentially slap me in the face and disregard one of the most well-known rules of your universe, in that Timmy's parents are not allowed to interact with his fairies, I really don't have to say much more than that. Also, animation error involving Crocker breaking a window that was already shown to be broken in a previous shot.
This thing is trash.
Mr. Crocker devises a plan to sneak into FairyCon using a cloning machine to make clones of Cosmo and Wanda to get in. The cloning machine, however, has DNA of his hairless cat inside it and causes the clones to be part cat, part fairy. And also Crocker rides a penny farthing just because. A lot of this episode is just because moments. So Timmy and Chloe enter the con, and I know I'm about 1,200 words into the script and I'm not even halfway done, but a lot of my main problems came within the first part of the episode, so the second part has a lot less to discuss. Blah blah blah, more unfunny jokes about Cosmo, more unfunny jokes about Wandissimo, and more jokes about Crocker being obsessed with fairies. Yeah, because that's Crocker's character. He just freaks out at the sheer sight of fairies. Never mind the fact that there is documented proof of him being relaxed around fairies. And don't even get me started on the way that he actually gets to the con. So they've shown us that every fairy and every god kid needs a ticket in order to get through. Timmy, Wanda, Wandissimo, Cosmo, and the other fairies have tickets, so they can get through. Then Crocker steals Chloe's ticket so she can't get in and he can. But then you show us that Crocker and his 2 fairies can get in with only 1 ticket. Ignore the fact that it's pretty lame that Chloe's ticket is the one that got stolen, when there would have been much more conflict if Timmy and his fairies got their ticket stolen too. The fact that they had to make a rule just for them to break it so the story could continue is actually wild to me. I also just love how they tried to make me sympathize with Chloe here, as if the episode actually built this up to be an important thing for her, beyond her insufferable yelling. That leads me on to problem 4. The pacing of these episodes is really off. To give a short example, there's this scene of Timmy dunking a basketball.
I know something is very wrong here, and I'll start to care right after I dunk this basketball!
But instead of actually seeing him do it, it's projected onto this big monitor. The problem is that they cut away from Timmy saying he's going to do it to a completely different environment where they show him do it. It would have made loads more sense for him to say that he's going to dunk a basketball, then show him doing it, then zoom out to reveal the monitor. That would have made for a much less awkward transition. And when it comes to the actual plots, the bad pacing becomes even more noticeable. Nothing is ever really given time to develop in these stories. Everything from Crocker's plan to Chloe's ticket being stolen, Chloe's motivations, it's just all thrown together in just a few scenes, and all the time that should be spent on those parts of the story are instead filled with jokes that wouldn't even get a laugh out of a toddler. Chloe, after multiple failed attempts at getting in, sees Mr. Crocker up to no good on a giant blimp monitor. Why cameras would be projecting Crocker's face on a blimp, I have no clue. I guess they just needed an excuse for the plot to move forward, as usual. So more filler later, and we get to Cosmo's panel, in which he shows a highlight reel of his best fails.
Roll it!
Cosmo, poof me up a hot dog!
Can't hear you, Timmy. Hey, there's an echo. Great time to yodel. Yodel!
Make me a hot dog!
My question is, why would this behavior be glorified? Wasn't Cosmo usually made fun of and not taken seriously because he was stupid? You know what, I don't even care anymore. I've been writing the script for far too long. Crocker tries to capture all the fairies, and they, for whatever reason, decided to give their wands to the worst fairy in existence.
That makes sense!
Also, another animation error here, where all the fairies are being sucked into the vent, but Mr. Crocker doesn't feel those same effects, despite being on the stage with nothing holding him to the ground. Chloe, not Timmy, Chloe saves the day, and in her honor, FairyCon is extended to however long she wants. Crocker gets turned into a hot dog, and that was FairyCon. I don't really think I need to sum up anything I've said in this review any further. The animation, the pacing, the characters, the obnoxious music, Chloe, all of it sucked. The only reason I rewatched this episode was so I could re-review it. The only good I can take away from this experience is that I can make a much better video than the first one I made. Link down below if, for whatever reason, you'd want to see that. Thank you for watching, hope your time was well spent, and take care.